Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It is currently 1:55 a.m. on Wednesday evening, going into Thursday morning. It is 28 degrees outside. It was really, really nice today. It was in the mid-50s, and it was like sunny throughout most of the day. Some clouds, but you could see the blue skies beyond. It was such a pretty day. And well, if you watch my vlog from yesterday, then you know that I I woke up early this morning, and I vlogged during the day today. I did, didn't I? Didn't I vlog during the day? Yeah, I vlogged during the day today. And I did so much today. It's crazy. I had such a great day today. I was in such a great mood all day today too, which I think always makes such a difference, you know? I'm so much more productive on days that I'm just really feeling happy and motivated. And I went to bed early last night, and so got a full night's sleep. Got up this morning. When Alex left, I left, went and vlogged. And then I did a review at Dunkin' Donuts of the new Charli D'Amelio cold foam. And then I went home and, oh, actually after that, I stopped by the kennel and said hi to Tanya, and sat and talked to her for a couple minutes. And then I went home and I had a drama video pre-filmed, so it was going up at like, well, I originally had it scheduled to go up at 3, but I posted it, I think, at like 1:30 or something. And then I filmed Peterism's video. Actually, I think first I did the Peter Does Stuff video, and I made iced coffee in my new Mr. Coffee iced maker, which is very, very cool. I really like it. I totally think it's worth the money. I bought it at Meijer, and I ended up drinking. I never went to Starbucks today, and I didn't finish the Charli D'Amelio cold foam because it kind of melted and got gross after like an hour. And I had left it in my car because I was going to drive around and listen to my audiobook later, but I was so busy that I didn't do that. So I ended up drinking my iced coffee that I made in my new Mr. Coffee iced maker, and it was really good. And then I filmed that video, and then I filmed a Peterism's video, and then I filmed a BookTube video, and then I what else did I do? And then I filmed another drama video that I posted this evening. So I actually posted 7 videos today, which is crazy. It's a lot. I had so much fun. And it was a good day. And then Alex afterwards, after work, he did hot yoga. And he was supposed to go with his friend to do hot yoga, but she wasn't feeling good, so he came home right after and he got Chipotle. And when I was done with my stuff while he was doing hot yoga, I went to go visit Tanya again in the afternoon at the kennel, and she and I hung out and talked for a little bit. And then it got really hot in here very quickly. I turned the heat on to high, and it's like, high is like 85 in my car. So let me turn this down a little bit. And then after I visited Tanya, I went and got Chinese food. I got vegetable fried rice. Well, I got like 8 vegetable mini vegetable spring rolls, but I only ended up eating 4 of them. Or did I had 6 of them. They were so good. I was so hungry. And then I got vegetable lo mein, which I've never got from, I went to Mark Pies, and I've never gotten that vegetable lo mein from there before. I mean, I've had it like, you know, on buffets and stuff like that before. I actually have 2 things of water tonight. I'm gonna drink out of this one first. Oh no, I'll drink this one first. Because I'm so thirsty for water. But anyway, probably because I had all that salt and that Chinese food. I woke up so thirsty tonight from my little nap that I took. So I got the vegetable lo mein, which they put on white rice, and then I got vegetable fried rice, and I made a bowl of each, but I ended up eating most of the lo mein. Well, not in the container, but like in the bowl that I put. I didn't love the vegetable fried rice. I mean, I liked the vegetable fried rice, it was fine, but I love water chestnuts. It has like water chestnuts and broccoli and stuff in it. But I was really into the lo mein tonight. And then Alex and I sat there, and I put his little table up with a napkin on it so that when he came home, it was all set up for him. And then we sat there and watched The Real Housewives of Atlanta, which he had already watched, but he was like, you've got to watch this. Because I used to always watch Atlanta, but like the last 2 seasons, I haven't. Was the last season the one where Nene came on to the reunion and then she walked off? I think it was. If that was the one, then that was like the last full season I watched. Okay, so like I've watched all the seasons except for this one. I haven't watched consistently, but I've watched like every other episode, 2 out of 3 episodes. I don't know, but I've been missing a couple. There's like new people on there that I don't know really well, so I'm not as interested in it. Marlo, I love. She's my favorite on the show. And I really like how she's changing a lot, and she's really trying to be nicer and better. But anyway, it was the one where they had the bachelorette party for Cynthia, and it was crazy. And Alex was like, you have to watch this one, so I watched it. And we ate, and then afterwards, he wanted to take a shower because he had, had hot yoga. He loves his hot yoga because he's like, I sweat so much, and he's like, I love it. He's like, I feel like I'm removing all these toxins from my body. So, it's not just hot yoga. They have like, it's this hot works place, and there's like a ton of them around town. And you go in and you schedule it, and you can like do a class with like yourself or 2 other people, like 1 or 2 other people, but they have to be people that you know. And you can do hot Pilates, you can do you can do hot yoga, hot Pilates, or like a hot like spin class like on a bike. And he's done all of them. He likes the hot Pilates, I think, the most, he said, but he said the hot yoga is really, really hard. I keep on meaning to go try it. And you can go do them like 24 hours a day too. So he loves that. So he was gonna take a shower. So I had made the bed really, really nice and cozy. And I sprayed my pillow with the lavender stuff, and then turned the lights on like real low on blue, and he went and took a shower. And I was like, I'm gonna take a nap for a little while, babe. Do you care? He was like, no, not at all. So he took a shower, and I like fell asleep. I was out. He came out and was putting his pajamas on. And I was like, oh my God, I fell so hard asleep. And I laid down at like, it was early. It was like 8:30 or 9. No. It was like 8:45 when I laid down. And I had set my alarm for 10:30. And then he came out and he was like playing his game on his phone and looking at Instagram and stuff. And then he, so I woke up, and then like I reset my alarm for 12:30 because I was like, I want to sleep some more. I was exhausted. And then he went to bed at some point, but he was like playing his game. He was kind of like laying there talking to the dogs, and I was like in and out of falling asleep. So anyway, a very cozy evening. And then I woke up. I turned my alarm off at 12:30, and then I woke up at like 1:15. And I was like, okay, Peter, get up and go, because I want to finish this book tonight that I'm listening to, which is called Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. And it's so good. I just got 2 more books on Audible. Well, I had a credit to use, and then... Okay, I had a credit to use, so I bought this Dean Koontz book because I just read that Elsewhere book and I really liked it. So he has a series out that's called like the Jane something series, and there's like 5 books in the series. So I got the first book, which is, I don't remember what it's called, but anyway. And then Dorinda Jones has a book coming out on the 2nd of March. Dorinda Jones is the one that wrote A Bad Day for Sunshine. Her sequel to Bad Day for Sunshine is called A Good Day for Chardonnay, which I think is a cute title. And it comes out in July, I think July 27th, I just saw. But she has a new series that's coming out, and the first one's called Betwixt, and it's about a woman that moves to Salem, Massachusetts, and it'll be very witchy, I'm sure, very witchy poo, a cozy mystery, and it comes out on the 2nd of March, so I pre-ordered that. It was like $12 or something. It's real short, it's like 6 hours and something, so I'm excited about that because I really, really like her writing. And in fact, she has this whole series called Charlie Davidson that I've been wanting to read, but I said I wasn't going to talk about books on here. So I sat there and looked at Audible for a while, and then I was like, okay, close the computer, and it was like, Peter, go vlog. So I came out to my car, and I drove around for like 5 minutes listening to my audiobook, and now I'm vlogging. So hi, how are you? How are you doing today? Oh my gosh. I do love my schedule of staying up late at night. I mean, I really do. Because I love to be out at night and listening to my audiobook, and I've always loved to be up late at night. But I really felt like a normal person today, you know, and I was like getting all this stuff done. At one point, I took a picture of my list, because, you know, I make a list every single day, and like I list all my videos in a row that I'm going to make, and, you know, I'm like, put them all in a row, all 6 channels, and then I like draw a line underneath it, and I write down all these things underneath there, like, you know, errands and things that I want to do for that day. And it was like 2 o'clock, and I had like almost everything done, and I had like all this stuff like crossed off, and I texted Alex, and I like sent him a picture of my list, and I said, I'm like getting so much done today or something. And he, by the way, if you didn't watch my last vlog, I bit the side of my mouth, which is why I'm kind of lisping. I sound exactly like I did when I was a kid. I had a really horrible lisp when I was a kid. That just, of course, made matters so much, you know, worse for me. They were just, the kids were so much kinder to me with my lisp. But anyway, but he texted me back, and he was like, took a picture like this, and of himself, like, and he was like, and he just pointing to his list, and he was like, I'm getting through my list today too. So it was funny. And but I had a good day today, and talked to some friends on the phone, and listened to a little bit of my audiobook. I have like an hour, and I think I have an hour and 12, I just looked, 72 minutes, so I have an hour and 12 minutes left. So I'll be finishing that as soon as I get off of here tonight, and then I don't know what I'm going to start next. I have a bunch of like shows I want to watch on Netflix. Somebody sent me this one on HBO Max. It's called It's a Sin. I haven't really looked into it. I don't know anything about it. I also want to watch the one with Nicole Kidman. I want to watch that. I want to watch The Flight Attendant, because I read that book, actually, by Chris Bohegan. And I think that's how you pronounce his name. And then, what else do I want to watch? Oh, Behind Her Eyes on Netflix, I think it is, or Amazon Prime. And then my friend just sent me another show to watch on Amazon Prime. And then, yeah, I have like 6 or 7 shows that I want to watch. I just really, oh, and I have to finish Hell in the Heartland. I'm assuming that if you're part of the True Crime Book Club, the book club's going to be a week from Sunday. I just saw that Mel posted on Facebook that she has mandatory overtime. So I have a feeling that she's going to probably want to take the weekend off, which is totally fine, because I talked to my sponsor today about doing inventory on Sunday. And if I do the book club, that'll like put me late, and usually I take a nap afterwards, or I film videos. And so then that way I can just go to brunch and then go do inventory with my sponsor on Sunday, because that takes like, I mean, I'm sure we'll be together 5 or 6 hours doing inventory. So I think we'll probably, Mel may say, oh no, I'm totally fine, let's just do it this Sunday, but I think I'm gonna see if she's okay with postponing it to next Sunday, and I hope everybody else is too, because it'll just be a lot easier for me, and I'm not wanting to postpone my inventory for another week. Because once you work on that stuff, just to like sit on it and not kind of get it out of your head, it's like I want to like work through it and, you know, kind of get it out of my head a little bit. Plus Alex can stay at home on Sunday with the dogs. So, let's see what else is going on. It's so still tonight. I literally cannot believe that we are like days away from March. I mean, it seems like, you guys, this is so crazy, but I can remember when it was, I mean, this is testament to like what a great summer I had, but I feel like it was just November, and I was like counting down. I was like November, December, January, February, March, April, May, and I was like, oh my God, we have 7 full months before the pool is open again and it's summer. And it's like crazy that, you know, like we're right around the corner from that now. And I mean, March, April, and May, 3 months. And those are some, in Indianapolis, those can be some beautiful months. What is going on over here? Look at it. This is, okay, it is a Wednesday night, and you guys, look how busy this is. This is this bar called The Main Event. Can you guys see how busy it is? There's like tons of cars over there. It's just like this local little bar. This water tastes so good. When I was a kid, I think this is from watching Little House on the Prairie, but when I was a kid and I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I was like really thirsty. Do you ever like wake up and it's like, well, one of the things I love is like, well, I mean, now my schedule is so crazy with vlogging, right? But like, you know, like when you go to bed at like, let's say like 10 o'clock, you know, and you have to be up at like 7 o'clock or whatever, like my old work schedule. And you wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh, and you feel like, okay, you feel like when you first get up, you don't see the clock and you're like, it's time for me to get up or whatever. And then you look at the clock and you realize that you still have like 5 hours left and you're like, yes, I have all this time to sleep. I love that. But the other thing is, when I was a kid, I would wake up and I would be like so thirsty, and I would go to the kitchen, or sometimes I would keep this cup in the bathroom and just drink it out of the bathroom sink. I don't know why, but sometimes back in the day, water out of the bathroom tap, the sink tap, tasted really good to me. Isn't that so funny? I don't know why. But anyway, and I would stand there in the bathroom, in like the dark bathroom and just chug water. Did you ever do that back in the day? So I still do that when I wake up sometimes. Obviously, I have these 2 cups right here. So, but I have this one and I have this one. So anyway, but I had this, well, for the first cup that I had was like a clay ceramic cup. I don't even know how to explain it. That was like glazed. It was just like this coffee mug that my mom had. But it was like a homemade mug, like that she got, like, I don't know, at some like arts place or something, like where somebody like made, I don't know why it tasted different. I actually still have the mug at home. I'll show you guys. It's like this greenish mug, and water always tasted so much better in that mug. And then I also had like a metal cup, and for some reason that always reminded me of Little House on the Prairie, because they would have like that metal cup. Do you guys remember that, like where they would have like the jug of water? Was that the well? And they would have like a cup on the well and it have a string on it. And what's that from, that I remember that? Where there was like a string attached to the mug, and then it would just like float in the water, and they would dip it out and they would drink water out of it. Was that Little House on the Prairie? It must have been. I loved those prairie shows back in the day. Well, any of those old-timey shows, I guess, like the Waltons. The Waltons wasn't necessarily like prairie shows, but I loved Little House on the Prairie. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Wanted to just be a prairie person. I wanted to be a prairie person so bad. Like, at least once a week when I was growing up, we would have to have like cornbread and beans. And I would, you know, tell my mom that we had to act like we were prairie people and have candle lit and stuff like that. And then we would go to, maybe this is where I saw it, but I don't think so. I think it was Little House on the Prairie. I can kind of see it in my head. That there was like this jug thing outside, or something. Not jug, but it was like this, you know, like a wooden keg kind of thing. But it had like a metal cup in it or something. They kept on a string. I don't know why I'm seeing that. I don't know how to explain it in my head. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? But anyway, and then they would like just reach down and like, it was like ice cold water, you know, like spring water, and they would drink it. So I love to stand there in the middle of the night and just drink out of this metal cup. I still have a couple metal cups at home, and whenever I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like super thirsty, I always like drink out of a metal cup because I think it tastes so much better. I have one that's like a Christmas metal cup. But anyway, whenever we would do like field trips, this is so weird because I was just, when I did that Peter Does Stuff video where I was walking in the woods at Richie Woods, and I pointed to that thing and I said that reminds me of field trips that we would take where we would eat lunch outside, and I would always be sitting by myself because I had no friends. When I was pointing to that, it was so strange because I was thinking of Conner Prairie, which I pass like literally every night when I vlog. And Conner Prairie was such a dichotomy for me when I was growing up, because like you would take a field trip there when I was growing up like every 2 years or something in elementary school, and I loved it. It's like this it's called Conner Prairie Settlement. I'm sure most cities have them. They're like prairie settlements. And it was this town, and it was settled by this guy named Conner. And it truly is, I mean, it's like a real thing. Like, there's like that whole area around there. There's streets that are called Conner this and Conner that. And like, it really was true. What's really weird is, well, hold on a second. So when I was a kid, we would go there, and then you walk around and you see all like the smaller houses in town. Some of them are like just remakes of the houses, but then they actually have like the actual Conner house where people, like this family, the Conners, lived, and they talked about like, you know, the people that worked for them and their like, you know, servants and whatever, and what they would have for dinner, and and so like when you go into town, like, and stop, and like each place, like the blacksmith, and you know, the guy that made the brooms, and the shoe carpenter, or whatever, you meet like all these people. You go to the schoolhouse and all this kind of stuff. So then we would always have like, you know, and then like they would say, if you ate here, we'd be having, you know, beans and ham and cornbread for dinner tonight. And they would actually like show these people, and they would be like eating like big pieces of cornbread, and they would like be dipping it into like beans and, you know, ham and beans. And so then I, of course, and like big glasses of milk and stuff, you know. So of course I would want ham and beans for dinner, because like I always lived out these like fantasies in my head of books I was reading and movies I would see and places I would go, right? So that was Conner Prairie Settlement. And, but we would eat, like, our lunch for the day. Like, you know, they would bring us, like, lunches from wherever, you know. Did we have Subway back then? I don't think we had Subway back then. But, like, you know, little Capri Sun juices and, like, little, you know, pre-packed lunches or whatever. And then we would sit outside on those picnic tables that were like underneath those things, and we would sit there. I remember one, and it must have been like several schools, because I like left the lunch and walked back into the town, and somebody found, I must have been young, I must have been like first or second grade, and I remember I was like standing outside of this house, like just like it was like the blacksmith's house, and like watching him, and like I remember him like taking me back to my teacher, and she was very upset that I had like walked away. I was always just kind of a dreamy kid too, but I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anybody to sit with and talk to. And I remember I was also like another time I was like sitting like not with our school. Like I sat down because I didn't know anybody, and I thought the table I was sitting at was our school's table, and it wasn't. And like, so when she was counting everybody off, like I wasn't there or something like that, because I was always just sitting by myself. I didn't know anybody, you know, like I didn't have any friends. And you know, it's interesting like vlogging and talking about this stuff, because when I was growing up, like this is something that has become, and my sponsor and I have been talking about it lately, because I'm like, I don't know why this is coming back up like recently. Like I don't know why I'm thinking about it, but like I was very conscious of the fact of being bullied. Like when I was in high school, and especially high school and elementary school, like those were the two times, and it was different, you know, like the way that I was bullied in high school is completely different than the way that I was bullied in elementary school. So I was very conscious of how I was bullied, right? Or that I was bullied. Like at the time and since then. But I don't think I really was that conscious of how lonely I was. Or that I lived this very lonely existence or had no friends. Like, I don't think I really got it. We have a good friend of ours that used to live right down there and to the right, and his house was amazing, and he just sold his house. Well, he just moved out of his house, but it was right there, and he had this gorgeous pool out back, and this, one of those huge, like, built-in kitchens, like, as, like, an outside house. Do you know what I'm talking about? With the in-screen TVs or, you know, all that stuff. And one of a built-in couch, and it was so nice. And I can remember his sister was living with him, and she's the one that lives in Miami now. And she, one night, like, we went out to dinner with her, and I was like, oh, this is so random. I don't know why I just brought this up. But anyway, I was like, do you ever, because she was just like living there because he was like traveling a lot. And I was like, do you ever just get bored? And she's like, no. She's like, I come home, and she's like, you know, I get carry out. And then she's like, I, you know, turn on a movie in the kitchen outside. And then like, I'll get in the pool and like a raft. And, you know, after working all day. And she's like, and then I'll just be in the pool, and, you know, and then I'll, you know, just like get out and eat my carry out and then watch the rest of the movie. She's like, I love to just lay in the pool and watch movies. And I was like, oh my God, that's like my dream. I said, I would love to just lay in the pool and like watch movies. And she was like, well, we'll have to do that. And then she like literally moved like a month later. And I never got to go and watch movies in the pool. I was like such a kid. When I was a little kid, we had one of my dad and my mom's really, really good friends. She, well, when I was growing up, she and her husband, it was her second husband, my mom and my dad and she and her husband and my aunt, they all lived in the same apartment building. It's called Oxford Gables now in Indianapolis, but it was a apartment building back in the day. They all lived in it, and that's how they all became friends. Well, she's now divorced from him. She's been divorced from him since I was like before I was born. And, she is married to somebody else, and she lived, when I was growing up, in Hinsdale, Illinois, and she had this really, really cool house. It was like this old house, and it had an indoor pool, and, but not like creepy like the Baumeister mansion. It was like, it had these like French doors and windows that like went out from like the living room, and then like the sunroom and like the bedroom. It like all looked over like this indoor pool. It was very, very cool. Where am I at on time? Am I really that close to being at 30 minutes? Oh my God. I think it's going to stop here in just a second, so I should probably just count it down in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, I'm back. But my dad and I, when we would go to Chicago when I was a little kid for the weekend, we would always stop at her house on the way home. And because he would stop in there and want to visit her or whatever, so we would stop there like on a Sunday. Like we would leave at you know, like 2 or 3, and then we would the car was acting really weird. We would stop at like, we would leave like at 2 or 3 or earlier than that. Then we would stop at Hinsdale on the way home. And I can remember we would like, you know, get home really late at night after that. But I would always bring my swimsuit because I was hoping that she would, you know, ask me if I wanted to go swimming and whatever. And so we would go there and we would sit down and, you know, hang out and visit with her and stuff like that. And we would be there for like an hour, and then I'd be so like, just like, oh, please, I hope she asks. I hope she asks. I hope she asks. And then finally my dad would be like, I don't think she'd care. I mean, they were like, they're still to this day really, really good friends. And I saw her, the last time I saw her was at my aunt's funeral with her 2 daughters. And my dad was like, I don't think she'd care if you go swimming. And she'd say, oh, I don't care at all. Go ahead, sweetie. And so I would like literally like rush out of there and go get my bathing suit out of the car and put it on. I was so excited. And that was always so much fun. She had 2 daughters from her first marriage that are older than me by like, oh, well, her oldest daughter is like 3 years older than Caroline. Because Caroline and my aunt went up there for a weekend, and so she ended up building this like amazing house, and it was like this 100-year-old house like out in the middle of nowhere. I think like Oak Brook or Oak Park, I can't remember, but anyway, it was the coolest house in the entire world. And her 2 daughters had like it was like one side of the house was like bedrooms and like the living room and dining room and all this kind of stuff. Then there was this huge great room, humongous, like 200-foot ceilings. And then I gotta turn around because I don't know where I'm at. And then Indie Beauty Room, I've never heard of that. And then she had this amazing kitchen with another great room like attached to it, and the kitchen was like 3 times as big as my entire condo. And then she had apartments, and there were like 3 apartments attached to where the kitchen was, and they had a nanny that took care of her younger 2 kids that lived there. And then her 2 daughters lived there as well, and they one was in law school and the other one was in art school at the Art Institute in Chicago. And yeah, I just saw her and her 2 older daughters at my aunt's funeral a couple years ago. It was really good to see them. My mom loved them too. And so anyway, she's who we used to go skiing with too, because she and her husband have a have a house literally on the side of the mountain. Oh, who is their house right across from? But anyway, in Park City, Utah. So we used to go out there and go skiing at their house. Now, she sold her house in Chicago, and she's like literally right downtown by what used to be the Ambassador East Hotel. She and her husband, there was like this old building, and they had it like, there was something wrong with the building anyway, so they took the building down and they built like a 5-story apartment in downtown Chicago. It's like their house now. I've never been to it, but my aunt and uncle, my dad and my stepmom have been to it, and they said it's amazing. And my aunt and my uncle, I'll never forget, I said, what was it like? And he was like, it's literally like you're in downtown Paris. Like, he was like, you're like literally right in downtown Chicago, and they have like this patio on top that's like absolutely incredible, you know, and you feel like you're in Paris or something. They're just really, really neat people. And good friends of my family, but we used to always stop there on the way home when I was a kid. Why was I talking about the indoor pool? Why did I get talking about that? I loved to swim when I was a kid. How did I even get talking about that? Oh, because when Alex's, like, our friends, well, they're Venezuelan, so, I mean, like, our family and their family are really, really close. It's like we're super close with their family. And her brother still lives here. And her sister lives in Miami with her husband. And she lives in Miami. And her mom and other brother live in Miami. But they're really good friends with Alex's mom, too, although that she met them after us. We kind of met them randomly. And, I don't know, like, if it's a cultural thing or what, but, like every, like, family that is Venezuelan that we meet in town, like, it's not just, I would say it's, like, people that we've met that are Colombian, too, and Peruvian, and Mexican, and things like, it seems like the families are very, very close. And so, like, if you're friends with one person in the family, it's like you're friends with the whole family. I don't feel like that so much, like, from the United States. What did I do? I took a wrong turn somewhere. Where am I? What did I do? You guys, I literally have no idea where I am. I think I can go this way. I wanted to try something different tonight. So I was like, I'm gonna go this way, where this church is. Please be this church up here that I always go through the parking lot. Now this is a different church. Where am I at? I've never even heard of this church. Servants of Christ. I've never heard of this church. I have no idea where I'm at. Yeah, I am. I have to turn around. I'm lost. I mean, I can GPS it, but this is weird. I don't think this has ever happened to me before, vlogging. How did I went down the street. I did a U-turn and came back. How did that happen? I don't even understand how that happened. Unless I drove right past the church. That could have been. What is going on here? Now I'm at like a T in the road. I literally just came from this road. Oh, no. This is the weirdest thing, you guys. What is going on here? I feel like I'm in some Twilight Zone movie. Did I not just come from this road? I must have been the next one up. Well, at least I was smart enough to look and see what the road was. See, now it's kind of like a puzzle to me. I'm like, okay, I gotta see if I can get myself out of it. Okay, this was the road that I was on. 79. I'm like on the back side of Geist. Okay. That must have been what I did. I must have just like driven right past where the church is. and didn't even think about it. That is so weird. I didn't see it because I was just rambling, telling stories. I guess that's what happened. Well, we are soon to find out. I mean, if I go down here and I turn around again, I'm going to be like, I am in the Twilight Zone. It is so weird to me how so many people still have Christmas lights up. Although we finally took down a wreath. Well, Alex took it down and threw it away. And the only reason I hadn't was because our trash can was, and we have these two greenery things on either side that I got at Costco, but they're more wintry. I mean, they're definitely not Valentine's. They need to go. They're Christmassy. But the only reason I haven't thrown them out is because we haven't had room and in the trash. So that's the reason I haven't. But this is the craziest thing. Where is this church? I feel like it's coming up here. If it doesn't come up here, you guys, and I take this road all the way through, and I have to turn it around again, I'm going to be like, where did that church go? Like, I will be so confused by what happened. Because now, it's like, I have to solve the mystery of what happened. And those houses are, like, all white and weird looking. They look like Amish town. Okay. Here it is. Okay, so this is the road that I take. What did I do? Okay, so I went down this road. This is so funny. I went down this road. See, I usually go in here to the church and turn into the church and go through. But I went straight, and then I turned around, and when I came back, I passed the church and just kept on driving down the street. That is so funny. Solve that mystery. What does Madonna say in Truth or Dare? I asked for it, I get it. You know, it's interesting to me when I think back on, like, thoughts I had as a kid. You know, like, when I look at, like, my nephews, like Carlitos and Sebastian, and, like, especially, like, Carlitos now that he's, like, 8, you know, 8.5. I don't know that... I think, like, you know, when I'm at, like, Alex and I'll sit there and we'll talk to him about his friends and, like, what he's doing and, you know, like, all that kind of stuff. And, oh, you know, like, who's your best friend now and all that kind of stuff, you know. And he's very involved in sports and all that. I don't know that I ever, like, think that he conceptually thinks about, like, big issue stuff. You know what I mean? Like, being lonely or... not well, you know, it's different too, I guess. I don't know. And, like, this is where it's interesting because, like, I don't, like, he's very popular. I mean, he's just very active in sports and he has a lot of friends and, you know, and it just, that's what it is for him. I think it'll be different for Sebastian. Sebastian's very quiet and they're just two very different kids. They are best friends. It's so cool to see, you know. But, you know, like, when I was that age, when I was Carlitos' age, and I was his age, I was, like, you know, 8 years old or whatever, like, I was thinking how isolated I was from my class. I was thinking how lonely I was. I was thinking I don't have any friends. I don't have anyone to talk to. You know, and it's interesting because I think, like, did my mom and dad ever look at me and think, like, he's thinking those things? I mean, and kind of I hope not. You know, in reality, I hope they didn't look at me and think, like, he's lives this really sad existence, because the reality was when I was home, I wasn't like that. You know, when I was at home, I was happy and carefree and happy-go-lucky and carefree, you know, and I was putting on shows and puppet shows and reading books and going, I was happy, you know. Yes, I grew up in an alcoholic home, but like 90% of the time, it was pretty good, and really my mom's like hardcore drinking didn't really happen, except for like when I was younger. It would happen when I was gone on weekends or if we were at my aunt and uncle's. So it was like I, to some degree, felt very safe. When I was older, it was more like junior high is when it really, like junior high and early high school is really when it really started, like where she was drinking on a pretty regular basis at home, like when I was there. But I also think like with high school, it's because, there's no reason why I need to justify what my childhood was like. It is what it was. And part of the problem was I never knew what it was going to be. And that was part of what was so painful. I didn't know if I was walking into Little House on the Prairie or if I was walking into mom having drank a lot with her girlfriends for the day. And the reason typically why I didn't like my mom drinking a lot was because my mom was a very depressive alcoholic. And so when she would drink, she would get very, very sad. And she would bring up things about my dad and missing my dad and wishing, that the marriage had worked and whatever. It was interesting because I pulled out this high school journal that I had written for a creative writing class. And other than it being like the writing was, I was obviously trying to impress the teacher, let's just say that. And because it was kind of like written in this like voice that I was like, who is this? You know what I mean? But there was like one thing that I was writing about, like my mom, and I was saying that she was working at Ayers, and I remember her working at Ayers. Ayers was it was like a department store, and it's so weird to think that Ayers doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, she worked in the domestics department, and which was like towels and sheets, and it was like Christmas time. It was like, she worked there like holiday season, like, I don't know, like October through January or something. We all got towels that year for Christmas. But I had written in the journal entry that I was trying to do something nice for my mom, and so like I made the dinner table and like made dinner and whatever to try to make like this really like nice evening for her, which I don't remember that at all. But I said in there that my mom worked at Ayers because she had worked for an elementary school that was like focused on learning disabilities for 3 years, and it closed. And I had totally forgotten that. And my mom had worked for this school that was part of Washington Township in Indianapolis, and like her department closed. I can't remember what it was called. It was called like Hillside Elementary or something like that. It was by North Central. And my mom worked with, it's interesting because Autism Month is, I think it's Autism Month, it's March. My mom worked with kids that were, her specialty was working with kids that had severe autism. And so she also was like, my mom would like private tutor kids that had severe autism. And she worked with some families for years and years and years and years and years. But the school that she worked in, was it Spring Mill Elementary? Was it Hillside? I can't remember. But anyway, they downsized their program, and so they like got rid of like half their teachers. And my mom was one of them that, left. She started there as a teacher's aide, and then she ended up getting a position at the school. I can't remember how it happened, but anyway, because my mom's master's degree was in education, and I had totally forgotten that. And she said, and so my mom was working at Ayers at the time, and I said something about when she came home in the evening, she was always stressed because she was worried about paying for bills. And she was like, if I'm not working, I can't pay the bill. I can't remember how I said it in the journal entry. But what was so weird about that in retrospect is, and maybe it's because I knew this later, my mom, her divorce settlement was fine. I mean, she did okay. She probably wouldn't have had to work. But she did work a lot of my upbringing. But you know what was so weird was, I did all of a sudden remember my mom talking about, she was always very worried about money. Very, very worried about money. And she would say things like, it was weird, like reading it. It was like, had I like compartmentalized part of that? Like, and forced myself not to remember my mom's fear of not being able to take care of herself financially. Like, she was really worried about that. And I can remember she would say things like your dad will never, not let, your dad will never let you go hungry or not have the things that you want and whatever. But like, when you're gone, like, I can remember her saying that stuff. And I was like, it's so crazy. Like, how did I forget that, And the other thing that's crazy about it, too, is, and maybe I don't know my dad, I don't know, but the man that I know would never have let my mom starve. I mean, he basically walked away and gave her everything anyway, so it's not like the woman was suffering. I don't know. It's weird, like, I think because my mom came from a very poor background, I think she was always worried about taking care of herself and having enough money to survive. And I do remember that, like, money that she got from the divorce, she put in CDs, which I always thought was weird. And I didn't understand really, like, until I got older. Because my aunt and her would get into, like, discussions and kind of arguments about it. And my aunt would be like, you need to be making your money work for you. And she was like, no, I want it somewhere safe. And I didn't really understand what a CD is or was. So a CD is a certificate of deposit. It's basically like you put it in there and you can't take it out for so long and you earn a certain amount of money on it. But because it's such a safe thing, you don't really earn any money on it at all. It's just kind of like you can't touch it until down the road, right? So she would say to me, I can remember when I was older, like, she didn't say this to me. I think what's partly weird about it is, I don't, like, my parents, my dad, at least I know, like, we don't talk about money. Like, my dad and I, we don't talk about money. Like, my friends think it's so weird that, like discussion of wills or, like, property, I mean, like, if somebody should die, I mean, we have, like, one time kind of had that conversation, and I asked my dad just some kind of, like, off question about, like, I can't even remember how he said it, but kind of like, things are taken care of, right? And he was so put out by the fact that I would ask him that. He was like, you don't ask your father questions about his money. Like, that's disrespectful. You don't do that. And that was literally like 5 years ago. Like, my dad has always raised me on, kids do not need to know their parents' financial issues. And the older I've gotten, I've kind of been like, well, if something happens, like, maybe I need to know. And my dad's like, my attorney and my accountant are fully aware of all of my business needs, and they will contact you if something should ever happen to me, and everything is taken care of, so don't worry about it. Like, he will not have the conversation with me, and he's always said, I don't think it's really any of your business. You don't need to know. And when I was a little kid, definitely, I never had that conversation, We never talked about money when I was a little kid. So it's weird to me reading this journal because I do remember that from my mom, but I almost kind of only remember it from when I was in high school. And she would always, like, do you know people that, like, put things out there and then they pull it back in? Like, they'll say, like, like my boyfriend was, like, I'm just making this up, but they'll say, like, my boyfriend was, like, such a, he was such a crappy boyfriend, like, he never brought me flowers, and, he was always out with his guy friends, but he'd always told me that he loved me, like, he always let me know. And so they put all that out there, but then they pull it back in, and they're like, but he loved me. My mom did that all the time with my dad. She would say, and that was when I was in high school, she did that a lot. She would say, because it did get bad at one point, because I said to my mom, do you know what it's like to be that was when I overheard, I very rarely ever heard them argue, but there was one conversation, and that was when my mom was at the condo, so it would have been after I was sober. Was it when I was at the condo, or she was at the condo? I think it was. I don't remember what age it was, maybe not, but anyway, I could hear them arguing on the phone. She was, like, screaming at my dad about something, and I looked at her and I said, do you know what it feels like to be the product of so much anger? And I remember later she said to me, I'm so sorry that you ever, overheard that. Like, you shouldn't have had to overhear that arguing between your dad and I, and I'm really sorry. And she's like, I don't want you to think that you were ever, like, a product out of anger, because that just was not true. Your dad and I loved each other very, very much. But that was like one incident that happened. But my mom would do that too. She would say like, you know, like, I can't really remember. It's so weird because I just like heard in my head, get it right. And I'm like, is that my mom like saying to me like, you better get this right if you're going to tell this? But like, it probably is. But like my mom would say things like, she would say, like, I'm very worried about money. I think maybe she did say like, your dad would never let us starve. I don't think maybe I don't know how she said it. I feel like she was always just very worried about money, but I can remember she would say things and then, you know, she would say, but your dad has always been very good to us and he takes care of the house and he takes care of us. She would always say those things. It was always taking care of the house, you know, whatever. But, you know, I look back, my parents were divorced when I was 8. You know, like, I think separated when I was like 6 or 7, or divorced when I was, I don't know, anyway. And my dad let my mom stay in the house until I was 22. Now, she lost some money at the end because she stayed in the house so long, but not tons. And she got alimony and child support that entire time. Until I turned 18, she got child support. And it was good child support. And then he paid her health insurance until she moved out of the house. And he took care of everything that had to do with the house. So anything, like all the utilities, any work that needed to be done to the house, anything that, you know, anything that would go wrong with the house. So she basically lived rent-free, utility-free, and all that kind of stuff. My mom would have said to you, yeah, and I was an executive doctor's wife for 17 years too, so I paid my dues. And that's what my mother would have said if she was sitting right here. She was like, it wasn't like he was giving me a handout. That was like, I was his wife, and I raised his child, so it wasn't, you know. She was very defensive about that. Interesting, you know. The story about my parents' divorce is interesting. Like, there's a lot of different sides to it. If you talk to my dad, you get one side. If you talk to my mom back in the day, you get another side. Although she was very protective of my dad always. My mom was always like, both of my parents were like that. My mom was always like, you don't ever say anything bad about your dad. Your dad has worked very, very hard, you know, to put food on the table and to give you a very nice childhood, and you don't ever speak poorly of your dad, which I didn't, you know. If I ever did, my mom would she would quickly put me in line. And my dad was the same way. My dad was like, you don't ever speak poorly of your mother. She raises you. She takes care of you. She gave birth to you. And he was the same way with my stepmom. He was like, don't ever disrespect your stepmom. You know, like, she's my wife. This is her home. She's very good to you. You know, and she was. And so I think it was really, really important with having divorced parents that they parented on the same page, and they did not allow any disrespect from me towards the other person. Whether they liked each other or not was a moot point. It wasn't about that. It was about how were they going to support each other as parents through this. And, you know, like, anytime that my mom, like, if I ever got lippy or whatever, my mom would call my dad, and my dad would deal with it that quickly. That quickly. I mean, he would, you know, and he just didn't tolerate it. My dad was old school. You don't ever disrespect your mother, you know. And it's interesting, you know, like now, like in Alex's family, because it's very similar. Like, it's a total matriarchy, you know, like, they're so respectful of Alex's mom, and they're so respectful of Alex's grandma, which I think is fantastic in the way it should be, you know. Well, I think we should probably just be respectful of everybody, shouldn't we? But I don't know. You know, it's interesting now, like, in retrospect, you know, talking to, like, my mom's friends and through the years, and some of them will say some things about it was a very messy, ugly divorce. That's all I know, is that it was very ugly. I was just actually telling my friend Valerie this the other day. My dad basically came to my mom, and he said, because he was like, he really wanted the divorce. And so he said, I think I've probably shared this on here before. He said, I'm going to give you the house. He had written it all up in handwriting. I think I have it down in the basement. It's like ripped in half. But he said, this was what he was going to do. He said, I'm going to give you the house. He was going to give her the house, like just hand it to her. Like it's yours now. And I will pay all utilities and all problems with the house until Peter is 18 years old and he's out of the house. And then he was going to give her an exorbitant amount of child support, which I think it was the same, but anyway. And then he was going to give her a salary every year as if she was an employee of his, which she would get health insurance with that as well. But she would also get a company car every 2 years, so she could trade in her... It stopped. But she was going to have all this kind of crazy stuff in there, like expenses for this and expenses for that, and I don't know, whatever, but, you know, groceries, like my dad was going to pay for all of this. Like, that wasn't going to be included in child support or her salary. And my mom stood there, and it was like an incredible kind of like salary at that time. I mean, it was like, I don't know what it would have been, but like 60 a month or 60 a year or something like that, until I was like 21 years old, I think, or 18, or I think it was till I was 21. I think everything went till I was 21, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, my mom took it and she ripped it in half, and she said to him, she goes, you can go F yourself. She said, I'm gonna get an attorney and I'm gonna screw you. She got an attorney, and so did my dad, and she should have taken, I think she should have taken the deal, you know? And I do know that she told me that. She was like, that she just was like, she always said that. She's like, I should have just taken what your dad was willing to hand me. She was like that. She said, my mom so believed in marriage that, she would never have been divorced. She would never be divorced to this day if she was still alive. She believed in, when you get married, it's for life, and for better or for worse, and you make it work, and you go to counseling, and you know, you do whatever you have to do. My mom really believed in that. And what was so weird is I can remember I said to her later, because my dad later told me, I said something about, why did you guys get divorced? And he said, we were neither one of us happy in the relationship, and your mom was not going to leave. And he said, I felt like we deserved to be happy, or at least one of us did. One of us needed to make the move, and so I knew it needed to be me. And he said, and I'm not the kind of man that's going to cheat on my wife. And so he said, and I was afraid that if I stayed, I was going to end up cheating, so I left. He was like, because I wasn't going to cheat on your mother. Which, say whatever you want, I think it's extremely admirable when there are so many people that stay in relationships and cheat. It's like, you know, but I think my mom was always very sad, and she didn't really get it. Like, I can remember I said to her one time later, I said, if Dad had cheated on you, would you have stayed in the marriage? And she said, absolutely. And I said, seriously? And she said, I believe in marriage till death do us part. She was like, I mean, maybe we could have worked through it or whatever. And what's so crazy to me about it is, like, you know, like, if my mom had gotten sober earlier, I think that the situation would have been much different for her. But my mom was, like, miserable from, like, the time that my parents got separated until she got sober when I was, you know, 23 years old almost, like a month before I was 23. Actually, it's so weird. I was looking through my journal today, and I found her journal that was, like, just meetings that she was going to at her 5-year sobriety mark, because she put on there something about her 5-year sobriety date, because it was June 2nd. And she was like, she would go to the meeting, and she would say right at the top the meeting, and then what the topic was, and what some people shared. It was so interesting. I mean, maybe at year 1 or 2, but like at year 5, she was keeping notes on meetings. I thought that was really interesting. Okay, I'm back. My battery died. I didn't even see it flashing or anything. I didn't even see that it was close to the end. I guess it was. I know that it will last anywhere now between like an hour and about an hour and 10 minutes. Although, I left my camera. Was that I left my camera in the car, or I left my battery? No, it must have been my battery. I mean, it must have been my camera in the car. When was that? About a week or 2 ago? Overnight. And, the camera got so cold that I think it just drained the battery out because it only went like 40 minutes or something like that. And I thought that was really weird. It usually goes a lot longer than that. But anyway, yeah, it just stopped me right in the middle of what I was saying. I was talking about my mom's journal and that it was weird. I don't know, maybe it was a literature meeting and she was like the secretary or something. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I couldn't really understand what she was like saying in there anyway. She was like, and so was saying this, and so was saying, I didn't understand. But anyway, it was nothing profound. Because I was trying to pull something from her journal and from my journal that was profound to read in my Peterisms channel today, and needless to say, neither channel was that profound. So that was why that wasn't the video that I made over there today. But anyway, man, I've talked for a while if the battery died. You know, it's weird when I talk about my parents' divorce, because, like, it's, okay, so, like, my dad and my stepmom have now been married twice as long, I think, as my mom and my dad were married. And, yeah, at least, maybe more than that. And, like, I don't really remember. Like, I can see glimpses, but I don't know if they're from pictures or whatever. I don't remember my parents ever really being together. I can remember when I was in high school, I was always afraid of dating. And my girlfriends would always say, you're afraid of dating because your parents were divorced. And you're afraid of commitment in a relationship. They always, like, wanted to psychoanalyze me, you know? And in my head, I was probably like, no, I'm afraid of relationships because I like guys and I don't really want to tell anybody. But you keep on thinking that it's about this divorce. But the thing is that I, like, really never had an issue with the divorce. Like, other than the very rare periods of time that my parents put me in the middle of something, which, like, almost never happened. Like, literally almost never happened. I mean, there's a lot of things in my childhood and growing up that I can say was hard to deal with and traumatic, from my mother's drinking to, you know, being an only child of a single mother, that I just didn't have a lot of interaction with a lot of other people, to being very lonely, to being bullied. Those two things are just paramount to my experience of growing up. But I don't think the divorce was something that really affected me that greatly. You know, I have a fantastic stepmother who has always been there for me. My dad and my mom literally walked me as a kid through each stage of what was going on. Through, like, I can remember them sitting me down and talking to me about the divorce and explaining it to me. You know, I saw my dad regularly. You know, I can even remember, like, finding my dad. It was literally like he had moved out and it had been like 2 or 3 days. And he had called me every night to check on me, but, like, I didn't have his phone number because this was back before cell phones and stuff like that. So I hadn't seen his phone number. So funny, because his phone number at that time, which he doesn't have anymore, is flashing through my head. But anyway, because he had it forever. But, I remember, like, I got in my mom's purse and I found his phone number and I wrote it down on one of those tongue depressor things, because we always had, like, medical supplies around the house, like, from my dad's office, like ace bandages and, you know, tongue depressors and whatever that I would take home. And I can remember I kept it, like, in, like, my underwear drawer or sock drawer or something like that, hidden underneath stuff. And you have to remember at the time, I mean, I look back on this and I think that's kind of sad, you know? Kind of sweet, I guess, but I was like 5 or 6, you know, probably 6 at the time, and my mom found it, and I'll never forget, she, like, and I was real worried that she was going to be really upset with me that I had written the number down. I can even see it, you guys, it's so weird. I can see my little writing on the, so I would have been more like 6 or 7, I guess. I can see my little writing on this tongue depressor. It's just, you know, like one of those little wooden tongue depressors. And it said, like, Dad, and then it had his phone number. And my mom was like, sweetie, she was like, anytime that you want to call your dad, you tell me, and we'll pick up the phone and we'll call him. And Mom doesn't even have to be here, and you can call him. I don't have to be around when you talk to him. If you want to talk to him about me, you can talk to him about me. You can tell him whatever you want to tell him. Your dad, you know, your dad loves you very much, and he'll always be there. And I remember, you know, that was like how she said that to me. And, you know, my dad called me. I mean, this just brings tears to my eyes. My dad called me every day to make sure that I was up for school, and to wish me a good day to go to, for school. And he would always call me at night and wish me, good night, and, say, I love you, buddy, and stuff. I mean, literally from the day that he left when I was in school all through high school. I mean, through high school, senior year in high school, he would call every day. The phone was in my mom's bedroom on this little round table when he walked in there, and I would go in there, and he would call in the morning, phone every morning, and I would go in there and pick it up, and he'd say, hey, it's me, just calling to make sure you're up. And I was like, hey, Dad, and he'd say, hope you have a great day at school today. Every day, my dad called me. Like, many times, even when he was on vacation. Like, that's crazy. Like, that is absolutely crazy, My dad was a phenomenal father, and I feel very, very blessed. And, even amidst having a mother that was a severe alcoholic, my mother was a fantastic mother as well. And she did the best that she possibly could in her own active addiction. And, there are things that my mother gave to me that, her introduction to books and art and literature and being present during TV shows and playing games, always played, games with me, and always was the mom that got in the pool and jumped around and played games. And she was always, she was never the mom that was just laying on the side. It irritates the hell out of me when I go to the pool and I see the moms that will not get into the pool with their kids. Get in the pool with your kids. You decided to have your kid, get in the pool with your kids and enjoy your kids in the summertime. It breaks my heart when I see that. My mom was always the mom in the pool, dunking me under. I mean, we had fun, I mean, not the whole time. She'd be laying out sometimes with her friends too, but, and my dad was the same way. My dad was that's how I learned how to swim. My dad would go to the YMCA and he would swim laps, and I was at the time 3 or 4 years old, and he would, put me on his back, and I would hold my dad around his neck like this, and my dad would do the breaststroke, and he would go under, come out, and breathe. And that's how he taught me. That's how I learned how to swim. Is that not crazy? I've always loved to swim, and when I was, growing up as a kid, my dad was always in the pool. So was my stepmom, I just feel so blessed, and I think when we look at I think it's important, when we look at our childhoods, I think it's easy to say, my mom was an alcoholic and I had a shitty childhood or something, right? I have so many friends of mine, and I do have a lot of friends of mine that had severely traumatic childhoods and that are 10 times worse than what I ever had, 100 times worse, 1,000 times worse. And I don't ever want to take that away from people that have had really traumatic childhoods. But I think also it's important to be honest with ourselves about the full piece of it. That there were moments in my childhood that were very, very good, and lots of moments that were very good. When Caroline and I did that video on my main channel, we were talking about our magical Christmases and stuff that we had. And she's like, I think that we had kind of magical childhoods. There were pieces to our childhoods that were absolutely magical. Absolutely, So, and I don't want to forget that. Because I think in this world, it's really easy to just look at the negative. And I want to remember the good too, So anyway, I'm going to get off here now. And as my friend Stephanie says, hey Stephanie, how are you? Sometimes you can just say good night. So tonight, I'm just going to say, if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. And like I just said, I love you. Be kind to one another, and I will see you tomorrow. Oh, I didn't say good night. Good night. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya!